All right, we are back once again, ladies and gentlemen, with Johnnie Torch Live, number 21. We're legal. Everybody have a drink. Have a drink on me. But drink responsibly. You know I'm watching you. Make sure you drink responsibly. Kind of a late edition today. We're doing a late broadcast because, well, things being as they were, didn't have time to fit it in earlier this afternoon, but better late than never, right? That's what they say anyway. Let's see, this is the 61st edition of the Torch News Roundup, if you are keeping score at home. Of course, the Torch News Roundup has been live the past few weeks. Off and on. Once in a while, I do a live broadcast ranking video, and like last week, we did the top 20 favorite all-time superhero actors of mine, personally, of course. Not a whole lot of news this week, but we also have the This Week in Comic Book Television segment, which we love to do. Too many programs to cover. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see Inhumans, so I'm going to wait for that for next week's edition of the This Week in Comic Book TV segment. 2-hour broadcast, and I have to wait 24 hours for it to come on demand because I usually am not home to watch live television these days. But I did have time to catch Gotham, so we're going to do Gotham, and we're also going to cover the 1 week ago Star Trek Discovery had their premiere episode, and of course, it was on CBS only for one episode, and you have to get the streaming service in order to get the rest of the broadcasts. But we're going to try to cover at least the first one later on in the show. All right, but first order of business. If you've been paying attention, you know that I like to do a little segment that we come to call Johnny's NFL Football Picks of the Week. Yeah. All right, let's see. What do we got on tap here? You know, probably for posterity, we should talk about the controversy that's going on. Kaepernick. As I said, I try not to put too much sports in the show and even less politics, but obviously, I don't agree with what's been going on. We have whole teams staying out of the playing field during national anthem. I mean, what is this? What is going on here? How has this gone so far out of control where it's like peer pressure is running rampant now and nobody has any guts to just say, look, we're honoring the country. We're honoring the people who fought and died for this country. And, you know, you can make whatever political statement you want, but there's a time and a place for everything. I mean, that's basically the bottom line. And honoring the country is honoring the people who put their lives on the line for the country. It's not the time to be protesting, you know, whatever petty problems you have with the country. Because trust me, there's plenty of problems the country has, but it's not the time and place to be doing it when we're honoring not only the people who've laid down their lives today, but also the forefathers. They went through hell getting us this country and putting it on the map so that these idiots can protest and, you know, have no ramifications from that protest. I'm not saying they should be locked up. This is their right to say what they have to say. But as I said, there's time and place for everything. And the playing of the national anthem and the honoring of the American flag is not the place for this kind of protest. And so I'll just leave it at that. I think everybody pretty much agrees that, you know, it's going to extremes now. It's ruining football for everyone, and it's going to have an impact on people not wanting to watch anymore. That's sad. It's very sad. Okay, let's take a look at my standings from last week. I had an 8-8 week, which is about even. You know, it's a moderate week. As many wins as losses. Bringing my season tally to 30 wins and 17 defeats. So not too bad. This is what I'm doing in lieu of fantasy football this year. I'm involving you in my standings. All right, so let me know what you think about the controversy, and let me know what you think about what picks. See, it was important that I try to do the show tonight because I got to get my picks in because I did them during the games last week, and it's kind of a strange time to do picks. But they will be registered and recorded in time today, except for this one, of course, the Thursday night game, the Bears at the Packers. I had the Packers for it, but I don't know who wouldn't have picked the Packers against the Bears, really. Now for the Sunday games, I've got the Saints over the Dolphins. They're playing in jolly old London again. London's getting a lot of games this year. I'm taking the Falcons at home over the Bills. I'm taking the Steelers over the Ravens, the Bengals over the Browns. Both teams with no wins. Ugh. I mean, the Browns, that's understandable. The Bengals, they got to get off the snide sometime. I'm going with the Cowboys at home over the Rams, although the Rams have looked pretty promising this year. I'm going with the Titans over the Texans. That's a toss-up game, really. I'm going with the Lions over the Vikings, which it's another toss-up. That's a tough one to pick. I'm going with my Patriots, of course, at home, hosting the Panthers. I'm going with the Jaguars over the Jets, the Cardinals over the 49ers, the Eagles over the Chargers. This is a tough one. The Buccaneers over the Giants. The Giants have dropped 3 in a row. And what's going on with that team, really? As much as I don't think Eli is a bad quarterback, there's something wrong there, and I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. I'm taking the Raiders to bounce back over the Broncos. Both teams got a loss last week, so somebody's going to have to bounce back. Later, I believe, is the Colts at the Seahawks. I'm going with the Colts on that one. My boy Jacoby Brissett, former Patriot, now quarterbacking the Colts. He's going to do a great job. And finally, the Monday night game, we have an all-Indian game. Ooh, politically incorrect. Skins at Kansas City. I'm going with the Chiefs on that one. The Chiefs look pretty good this season. 3-0. They beat the Patriots as well. So that is my NFL segment of the week. That is, as we affectionately call it here on the show, Johnny's NFL football picks of the week. And as we move on now, let us see, what is our first story that we're going to cover today? This is the official beginning of Torch News Roundup, number 61. Okay, well, this is interesting. Let's start with this story. I don't believe it's confirmed, but here we go. Again, trying to get these images up is always a challenge, but here we go. There is rumors that Riz Ahmed, who played Bodhi Rook, of course, in Rogue One, is up for a role in the upcoming Venom movie, starring Tom Hardy, Tom on the left, Riz on the right, if you're looking at the screen. And some rumors have it that Riz might be playing Carnage. I don't know. I'm I'm not sure because you have to wonder, since the Venom is, a villain, kind of a anti-hero in some ways. I prefer him as a villain, but if he's going to be an anti-hero in this film, he's going to need a villain, and I suppose Carnage is the only one made to order, but I think there's a danger of too many symbiotes. They do this. I would prefer just Venom. I don't think you want to use too many symbiotes in one film. But of course, because the next casting addition that's rumored is Michelle Williams, there in the center. It was reported by that hashtag show. This is a place that I guess is getting a lot of news lately because I think I seem to be mentioning them every week. I wrote the story that at least the rumor is that Michelle will be playing Anne Wang, who is a successful lawyer. She would be playing, it says, according to the source, the district attorney and possibly Hardy's love interest. Sony has no comment. So, this made people speculate that she's going to be playing She-Venom. as I haven't been reading comics for quite a while now, with all the controversy and stuff going on with that, but I'm not familiar with the character, but it sounds like a cool idea. I mean, if you can have all these guys with the symbiotes covering them, why not a girl? So I would be extremely in seeing Michelle Williams playing a she Venom, but as I said, this is a cause for concern. How many symbiotes are we going to have in one film? Is 3 symbiotes going to be too much? Is 2 symbiotes too many? Um, I don't know. I can see Carnage being an important addition, having to have a villain, as I said. I'm not sure what she Venom is. Is she a hero or a villain? Probably a hero, because I believe. No, I don't really know what happened in the story. I just remember. I think Venom became heroic around the time of he had. I don't know if I'm getting this straight from the animated series, but he had like a crush on his doctor, his psychiatrist, or something. And Carnage would put her in danger, and sort of that's what turned Venom into more of an anti-hero, and putting him on sort of the right side, and they kind of kept him there for a long time. Rumors also have it that they're going to be pilfering from the Flash Thompson Venom, where he was a victim of an accident and the government made him a secret agent, restore his health and his limbs, I suppose. He willingly became Venom and took the symbiote. I'm not too crazy about that idea, but seeing as how they're not going to do the Spider-Man story, because obviously you need Spider-Man and the Venom origin if you're going to do it right, and they're not going to do it right apparently because they're not announcing Tom Hardy's involvement in this at all. Um, so it's very interesting. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to go, but for all intents and purposes, it looks like we're going to have a symbiote palooza, so to speak, and that should be interesting to see. The budget is probably going to be huge to try to do 3 CGI symbiotes in this movie. All right, we're going to stick to the rumor mill, even though that's like all but confirmed about Venom. But uh, at least from what I understand here, Uh, rumor has it that Wonder Woman will appear in the Flash movie. Now, this is interesting because originally Cyborg was tapped to have a supporting role in the Flash movie. Now they're saying Wonder Woman. I'm not sure if that's because of the popularity of the character in comparison with the other hero movies, and that haven't done too well. Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, but this also could be in response to the fact that the new Flash film is going to be the Flashpoint Paradox. For those of you who don't know, I would seriously recommend checking out the Flashpoint Paradox Blu-ray animated film, which was probably the last really good animated film I've seen from DC Animation. Although, like I said before, I missed a couple of them. There could be some good ones out there. I hear good things about Justice League Dark, which I haven't seen. But that was the last one that I really enjoyed, the Flashpoint Paradox. And in that, spoilers if you don't want to know, then you know, skip ahead about a minute and a half, but in Flashpoint Paradox, Wonder Woman and the Amazons have a war with Aquaman and the Atlanteans. And so at this point, it could be like a small role to facilitate that storyline. No word if Moa is going to show up as Aquaman to carry that through. I think that would be great, but I think there is a danger that we're going to have only seen Flash in Justice League, and you're putting his next solo movie, or his first solo movie, if you want to put it that way, you're going to put him in a Civil War situation where you have so many supporting characters vying for attention and get lost in the shuffle. Now, of course, Captain America didn't in that film, but there's a good possibility that Flash might, because we really haven't seen that much of him, and we're going to also be dealing with these other factions. Again, you know, spoiler warning still, the um the interesting thing was in that film, Batman Bruce Wayne is killed in the Flashpoint paradox, and his father becomes Batman. So we'll have the actor that played Bruce's father in Batman v Superman literally playing Batman in that film. So there'll be no need for um, Ben Affleck. Of course, you know, bookending cameos would probably be nice if Ben will do it. Superman didn't really have that important of a role in the film. Superman is the only thing I didn't like. Well, I didn't really like what they did with the war between Wonder Woman and Aquaman, but this, of course, is the dark parallel timeline where everybody's bloodthirsty, and apparently they just went off their gourd and made war with each other. Wonder Woman to make war. You know what I mean? That's not in the character. Now, I don't know about Aquaman. Maybe he'd be a little more prone to war, at least in some of the incarnations I've seen of him, which I still didn't like. I don't really like him being that. What I like, what I've seen in the Justice League trailer, is that he seems to be the sort of humorous Aquaman, kind of like the Brave and Bold Aquaman, except not quite as cartoony and cheesy. But they look like they're trying to make him sort of the gruff goofball type, Aquaman. It seems a little more in line that you wouldn't see him making war either, but we'll see. We'll see how this works out. Of course, uh, it's also being said that Joby Harold has finished the script for Flashpoint Paradox. Still no director attached. Last I heard, they were looking at Robert Zemeckis. Excuse me. Robert Zemeckis has been on the short list. I don't know. Of course, Miller and Lord, who was unceremoniously fired from the Untitled Han Solo film, was the first attached to this film. They got shown the door, and then Seth Graham-Smith, and he worked on it for a while, and he got shown the door. And then Rick Famuyiwa, dope. He had the you know irreconcilable differences as well, and he got shown the door. So this project has been flipping through the hands of directors for it's probably been about 2 years now, I think. But hopefully this will get attached to a good director, and I'm looking forward to seeing this. Especially Flashpoint Paradox, if they pull it off well in live action, it should be great because like I said, it was a great story in the animated version. Unfortunately, the Grant Gustin show version was so brief it really didn't have a chance to resonate, and they didn't really take full advantage of putting Oliver Queen in it and doing all this kind of stuff. They didn't really do a whole lot of stuff. I think, what did they do? Maybe I'm just forgetting, but I think they just had Felicity in it, and she got killed, and that was sort of like throwing a bone to the Felicity haters. But there was really no contribution from other heroes, and that's why I think the Flashpoint Paradox should have been a crossover event for the CW. All those shows, they should have got together and did a crossover, and did 4 episodes of the Flashpoint Paradox. Would have been great, I think. All right, so we're gonna move on yet again, and let's take a look at, so to speak, before we get to the big news, the big, really big news. This was from Variety, uh, this story, uh, regarding Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, they say that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was really about to be cut last year from ABC, but Disney pulled rank on them, making them keep the show on the air and giving them this 5th season. Personally, I'm over the moon that they did this because, last season was so great. And I'm not one of these people that have bashed the show, because I think the show's been pretty good all along. I didn't really care for season 3. Season 3 was the one with Hive, and Ward was Hive and all that stuff, and Coulson going on a spree and stuff. I didn't really like that season. I love the second season. I thought that was the most interesting when the Inhumans were introduced, and you had um, Daisy finding out her powers, and of course the great addition of um, Paul Atreides. I can't remember the actor's name. Why do I always do this to myself every week? But so yeah, I mean, the show's been good all along. In the first season, everybody also picks on the first season, but to be honest, it was a solid first season. Not every first season jumps, you know, over the tracks and picks up speed. You have to, you know, burn some fuel first before you get to that point. And I think that Agents of Shield's first season basically did that as well as any fledgling series would. I mean, you have to have a little patience for them to gain some ground before you can, you know, give up on them. And for those who didn't give up on them, you were rewarded. So yeah, last season was great. The Ghost Rider segment was awesome. Really loved it. I was a little less impressed with the LMD part. I thought it was doing well, and then it kind of ran out of steam. Like they didn't know what to do at the end of it with Ada. She just sort of like, I don't know. She like was subservient until she finally wasn't, and then when she wasn't, she was in the the parallel world there for a couple of good episodes, and then she comes back out and is it just felt like it was too rushed. I think they wasted too many episodes in the beginning of that arc, not putting it together properly. All right, so we'll move on here now, but that's exciting that Disney is that of Shield where they're not going to just axe it until they probably feel they've gotten as much out of it as they can. Of course, the show has been moved to Fridays, which is not a very good slot for a show to survive in. Unfortunately, it's named the death slot for a reason. So there's every reason to believe that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. won't survive this season. Hopefully, Inhumans and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will both survive this season. We'll soon find out once the season is over. All right, we've got finally the big news that, oh, this makes me so happy. We have news that, big news, this is the really big news we're talking about. John Williams' iconic Superman theme is finally making its way back into the DCEU, into the DC movie universe. Now, the article from Board, I believe it was, has Danny Elfman, of course, who is doing the score for Justice League per Joss Whedon's orders. The two worked together, and then they, when Joss Whedon took over directorial duties for Zack Snyder, he brought it on. And so what he's saying here in the article, let me see. I'll just read it verbatim. It says, Danny Elfman said, "It was like I never left because I'm using the same thematic material I used back then. It never actually went away. It just was great fun. There are a few little moments. I initiated a moment of the Wonder Woman theme that Hans Zimmer did for Batman v Superman, but I also had 2 minutes where I had the pleasure of saying, let's do John Williams Superman. And that for me was heaven because now I have a melody to twist. And I'm using it in an actually very dark way, in a dark moment. It's the kind of thing that some fans will notice, some won't. It's a moment where we're really not sure whose side he's on." So this twisting of the John Williams theme is interesting. Now, they weren't afraid to use the John Williams theme. They had the rights to it, of course, WB still, in Superman Returns. So Superman Returns used all of John Williams' score from Superman. I mean, parts of it was adapted and so forth, but the theme was pretty much used intact. Now the theme is going to be turned somewhat into a darker version because we don't know if Superman's good or evil. Now, to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Death of Superman story. I mean, I bought the book like everybody else, Death of Superman, but I kind of lost interest around the point where they were bringing him back. So I don't remember exactly how they brought him back. I know they did it in the animated movie. I've got the animated movie. But I don't remember him ever coming back as a villain. So this might be interesting to see where he comes back as a villain. But it's strange to finally, after all this time, play the John Williams Superman theme and then play it as Kal-El's coming back as a villain. I'm not sure if that's the best thing. I'm not even sure if that's what they're intending. But also, this is a spoiler, I suppose. Now we know that Superman is coming back, even though everybody knew that, to be honest, from the beginning. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I guess time will tell if this is a good idea or not. I mean, I personally love the John Williams Superman theme. I think it's the best and most iconic superhero theme ever. Of course, you had Elfman's Batman from the Batman '89 as also one of the top great themes. He doesn't say a whole lot about that, but some more of the article, he says, the people at DC are starting to understand that we've got these iconic bits from our past, and that's part of us. That's part of our heritage. We shouldn't run away from that. Because every time they reboot something, you have to start completely from scratch, which, of course, audiences will tell us again and again is bull, because the single most surviving and loved theme in the world is Star Wars, which they had the good sense to not dump for the reboots. Back, the audience goes crazy. Speaking of the themes that he'll be creating for Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg, he goes on to say, I created some very simple motifs. They are so many themes, you can't just do a big theme for everything. So I created a motif for Flash, for Aquaman, and Cyborg, but they're very simple things, and DC understood. I said these things may never be used again, but I'm giving you all the components. Should you wish to approach a project like this, you have to take an attitude that this is the beginning of a mythology, and it all matters. It all comes to fruition, and with any luck, they will. All right, so a little bit of mini themes going to be presented here for Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg, and it's going to be up to Warner Brothers to do something with those themes if they want to. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below about John Williams' iconic theme now being presented in Justice League, and hopefully it won't just be a dark version, but it will be the 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 glorious, bright, shiny Superman version that we all want to see. I think this theme song is the way to do it. I think this is the way you reintroduce Superman as the beacon of light that he should have been before Zack Snyder. And this is the way you reintroduce Superman. And I think if Elfman does it right, this is going to be a successful venture. Okay. Also, the rumor has it that several weeks ago, this also came out. Well, I never talked about it, but apparently the WB is spending a lot of cash to try to digitally remove um, excuse me, Henry Cavill's mustache because he is currently shooting another film, and when they brought him back for reshoots, he wasn't allowed to shave his mustache from whatever the movie he's shooting. So, because you would think that they would let him shave and then put a, makeup made up mustache on him to finish, filming the film, but they won't let him do it. He's contractually obligated to wear that mustache. So now WB is at the conundrum where they have to spend more money on digitally erasing Cavill's mustache. He fought his mustache, and it's probably costing them a ton just to get this movie completed because it's going to be released in a couple of months, um, just over a month now. Hard to believe time is flying already, but I'm thinking this is going to. I'm hoping anyway it's going to be successful. I think it's going to be a good movie. I know a lot of people are, still thinking that Snyder is going to still be on the film, but I'm hoping that it looked like even before Whedon, uh, took some writing passes at it, it looked like it was going in the right direction. Some humor and some of the colorful action looked pretty good, and hopefully with Whedon at the helm and retooling some of the scenes, cutting out a lot of stuff like we heard last week. We were talking about they cut out Iris, they cut out Lex Luthor, they cut out Darkseid, tightening the film up, making it in good shape to not be this 3-hour long dirge like all the other films have been. I mean, the other two Zack Snyder films. All right, so anyway, we're going to have to move on now. Let's close up the show, the other half of our show here, with This Week in Comic Book TV. Okay. Alrighty, let's see if we can this image up here now. Have the only comic book show really that is still making the airwaves as of now, apart from, as I said, yesterday's Inhumans, is Gotham. So we've got Gotham Season 4, Episode 2. And this was a direct, sequel from last week's episode where we're still dealing with the Scarecrow. And in my opinion, it was kind of a filler episode. Uh, Kind of early to have a filler episode in only the second week of the season. But, you had Gordon taking on loonies from Arkham Asylum. Not really, a long, stretched out storyline with him. We got our first Lee cameo. And, as soon as Gordon got gassed, I knew that he was going to have a Lee vision. That was hardly surprising. Although most of the other, um, you know, visions that these other people were having were pretty interesting, such as the warden with the clown fear, and of course, coincidentally, kind of makes himself look like the Joker. It's very interesting that most of the fear toxin make people take on their fears and become their fears. It's very interesting because that's usually the opposite of what the fear gas does, and they chose to make it go in that direction this time, which was pretty interesting. All right, as for the Scarecrow, I love the costume. I think the costume looks great. The mask is great. I think the mask is arguably better than the Batman Beyond mask because you just get to see a lot more expression in the eyes. And I think the kid that's playing Crane is really good. He has that wide-eyed, crazy look that even without the mask, he's got that look of Crane from the comics, where he's, really sort of, you know, looks like the textbook case of someone with, a case of panic. All right, so the only problem I probably had with Scarecrow in this episode is I really can't get with the voice. He's got like this kind of monotone voice, and even with the mask on, it's kind of lacking. I really wish that they would give him a little more character, vocally. I mean, because like I said, I think the kid's a good actor, and I think he looks just like, well, what a young Crane would look like from the comics. But I think the voice is what's kind of throwing me. But I really love the Scarecrow. A lot of people from the reviews I've heard are not really taking to the Scarecrow, but I think he's doing a great job. And like I said, I think he's going to be the season-long heavy. So Mad Hatter was last season, so I think he's going to do a good job. And I'm looking forward to seeing him, getting more screen time. All right, now the Penguin scheme is still patently absurd. Not to step on any toes of any law enforcement officials out there, but cops typically have an ego such that they're not going to sit back and become irrelevant. If they're all in the take, it might be one thing, but so far they've been taking a let Penguin do it stance. And I think cops have a little more pride than that. They're not just going to sit back and say, well, nobody appreciates us, let the Penguin do it. So, I don't know. I think they should really try to get off that storyline as fast as possible. Do something a little bit more interesting with the Penguin. I like to see him ruling the underworld. He had a great scene with Barbara, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Barbara is back. Um, a new version of Barbara, a new incarnation, kind of. I still mourn the loss of Crazy Barbara. I think that was her best personality. I mean, the first season they tried to make her just the femme fatale, I guess, and then the second and third season they had her crazy as a loon. Now the season they're going to have her just be another scheming big shot. That's like a step back, and they really shouldn't be, trying to put her backwards. They should continue with that crazy zany persona that she's had. I don't know. Maybe the actress got tired of playing that, or maybe the writers had nowhere else to take her. But I think that she was kind of almost the Gotham version of Harley Quinn, and now she's going to be sort of a black market weapons, you know, arms trader. Obviously, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, but obviously she was restored by Ra's al Ghul, and apparently the Lazarus Pit probably straightened out her, as Michael Keaton would say, bad wiring in the noggin. So we'll have to wait and see. Then the offer to bring Tabitha and Selena into the fold was interesting. I think I don't know. It was a good scene, but the people's loyalties switch so show. I almost forget who's got a grudge with who. Now I remember, of course, that she has a grudge with Barbara, Tabitha, which Tabitha, Tabby, Catwoman. Oh, they're so clever. I just realized that right now, believe it or not. But yeah, Tabby Cat. So she's going to be mentoring Selena still, and apparently they're all going to get back together in the fold. Now, again, I'm disappointed in Poison Ivy getting the shaft. They had a good chance there because she wanted to like join the gang, and Tabitha's like showing her the door. I would have thought Selena was gonna stick up for her a little more because they were best buds, weren't they? A couple of seasons ago, they were best buds. Get it, Ivy buds? But oh, I'm so clever tonight. But but she kind of like didn't really stick up for Ivy, and that's why Ivy, I guess, is gonna go off on her own, and maybe that's for the best. I don't know. I kind of envisioned her being a season wide big bad, or a half season maybe devoted to her. Mr. Freeze also, for that matter. What's happened to him? They kind of are just throwing them subplots every now and again instead of like devoting season arcs to them. Or like I said, half season arcs would probably be better. They had chemicals at the end of the episode. Apparently, this is going to have some kind of effect on her. I don't know, but I hope they don't really do the green ivy thing that they did in the cartoons. Eventually they had the in the Batman animated series when they came back. I forget what it was called, Gotham Knights or something, where they had her green. And I think they even carried that over with the video games. Poison ivy sort of becomes a human plant almost. It's kind of strange. I just don't think they should go that far, but I would love to see her actually get a costume, because they're still not really giving her a costume. But then again, I don't suppose anybody else has a costume besides Mr. Freeze at this point, and that's only by necessity. Okay, so also we've got to, before we wrap it up, we got to check the Bruce Wayne drama. Bruce Wayne, last we saw him crash through the skylight and got arrested with the rest of the robbers in the penthouse there. I think it's playing out nicely. I'm glad he used the right excuse to Gordon, because that makes the most sense. He knows he's always chasing after Selena, so I'm sure Gordon will buy it. But I'm glad they had Lucius give Bruce the costume, the proto costume here, because if he just kept going out with a ski mask and a dark suit or something, this is going to get old fast. So let's get him into something that's going to be a little more resilient, a little more durable. And props for keeping the Nolan-esque "because only Alfred can know, but don't think a fox is an idiot" routine. I thought that was great and felt like it was, he does a good job. This actor, I don't remember his name. I'm lucky I can remember my own name, but but he does a good job of sort of doing the Morgan Freeman mannerisms, and I think that's what's kind of endearing about this Lucius. Um, so yeah, I think the only thing also that I wanted to, of course, we got Zaz again. He's always great. Just even getting a little bit of him, so hopefully he sticks around. I think when we have the Penguin actually doing something, it'll be more interesting. Penguin didn't really have the effects of the gas for too long. I was expecting that to carry over for a couple episodes. Same thing with Gordon, but I guess they're doing the old school version of the fear toxin where it doesn't keep reoccurring over and over and over again. It stands to reason, seeing as how this is Crane's first stab at making these fear gases and toxins and stuff. It's not going to be the greatest um, formula that he's going to make. He's yet to make that until he grows to maturity. And yeah, it kind of reminded me the cold water snapping them out of their fear and stuff. That reminded me of like fire, taking the black sleep of Kali away from Indiana Jones. That's sort of like instead of fire, it was cold water. It's interesting. I don't know. Wake up, Dr. Jones. All right, so let's move on now. That was a good episode. Like I said, a little bit fillerish. I think they could have put a little more, maybe meat and potatoes in the episode, but it's still early in the season. I'm a firm believer that you set up these things. You don't just plow through. It's like I said with Agents of Shield. I mean, I can't blame them for setting up stuff because they got a whole season that they have to facilitate. Okay, before we wrap it up here, we've also got, as I said, we've got the Star Trek Discovery. Now this is this is This Week in Comic Book Television, but I basically will review anything I want to in this segment. So Star Trek also has a long history of being in the comics. So, there's nothing unusual about this. I don't have a lot to say. It was all right. I enjoyed it. As a non-Trekkie, I'm frankly only a big fan of the original series. I don't have like a big extensive opinion on everything Star Trek. I mean, I watched for like about 2.5 seasons pretty faithfully as a kid. Kind of lost interest there, and I think I've said this before, but I've only kept the most tentative grip on Star Trek since the Next Generation, and even the Next Generation I didn't really follow that closely, but I thought it was entertaining. I enjoyed it. It had the right amount of callbacks to the original show. The bridge sounds, it sounds like the same bridge, really. They have the updated looking ship, which is always, it's kind of hard when you're trying to say, oh, this is set like so many years before the original series, and then of course it looks like it's more futuristic than the Next Generation. So it's you kind of have to deal with that. But I liked I always like the guy that plays Spock's dad in this film. I mean, in this show, the guy that plays Sarek. Um, Again, I'm blanking on his name, but he played Galavan in Gotham. I thought he was good as Sarek. It's hard to replace these original actors. Mark Leonard, of course, was the classic portrayal of Sarek in the TV show and films. But I thought he did a good job here. Um, I was a bit confused as to whether this was in the Pine Abrams continuity or the original series, the William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy version. I don't know. I'm guessing it's the Abrams continuity because, or what they call, I guess, the Kelvin continuity. I'm not sure. But the Klingons were designed exactly the same as you know, um, the Kelvin continuity, the films, the Chris Pine films version. I don't really like that design, by the way. It looks too, I don't know, it looks like part Klingon, part Gorn or something. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't stick with sort of the more traditional, rigid head, look, and then the rest of the face being kind of normal. This looks more like they got putty stretched across their face, and it's very strange. But they did keep, I think, the Klingons pretty pretty close to what they were like in the other incarnations of the shows. So, that was pretty good. Um, the alien guy was pretty cool. I don't remember his name on the left here in this picture. I was glad that he wasn't a Spock Data clone because they're always, playing the character that doesn't understand humanity or emotions or whatever. And this guy did seem to be a little more on par with, he understood what was going on with his human counterparts here. I kind of dug the relationship between the captain and the first officer. I thought that was good because we hardly ever really see that like big sister little sister type relationship. I guess that's kind of what I thought this was like, or maybe mother and surrogate daughter type thing. Um, so I dug it. I guess spoilers again. Um, Michelle Yeoh, I believe, is the actress playing the captain. She's going to die in the series. So unfortunately, that dynamic isn't going to be explored. But I thought it would have been interesting to see a female captain and a female first mate, or first officer, I guess, in science fiction. Seeing their relationship throughout the course of a season. I thought that would have been good. We kind of had that a little bit with Picard Riker, sort of the big brother, little brother, or the authority figure and the young buck, something like that. I thought it would have been interesting to follow that and progress that a little more, between them two. Um, I honestly don't remember any of the characters' names except Michael, which is kind of odd that she's a chick and she's named Michael. But anyhow, besides that, um, head Michael is and doesn't really, you know, take orders too well. I suppose I don't know. I thought she was an interesting protagonist. It's interesting because she's not the captain. I think this is one of the few times, I guess, in Star Trek where you don't really have the lead character be the boss. You know what I mean? The main character isn't the one in charge. So it should be interesting to see going forward. I personally am not going to pay a subscription service to see more. I don't want to, have to pay for a CBS. What is it? CBS platform? I forget what it's called, but so unfortunately, I'm probably not going to see any more of this. At least in the near future. I don't know. It depends on how things turn out. The landscape for television is changing so rapidly with all new, streaming services, platform services. I don't know what they're called, but I mean, you're going to have the Titans show from, the Teen Titans show going to be on. I don't know what platform that is. And then you have the season 3 of Young Justice going to be on another platform, and now you got Disney making their own platform, and they're going to take all the Netflix shows, all the Netflix Marvel shows, and put them on that platform. Ugh. And something's going to hit a wall eventually. Something's going to be the rise of, you know, these services are going to have to be so cheap that people are going to be able to get multiple ones, because nobody's going to really keep up. If we're going to have to get like 5 of them at like $8 each, it's probably going to be. I mean, then you also have cable. So I'm trying to say is, you can't afford all these things. YouTube Red, which I'd like to see the Karate Kid show they're going to be putting on. It's just interesting to see how it's going to work out. I don't know, but yeah, I liked Star Trek Discovery, and I would probably watch it if they had the guts to put it on a network station, or maybe syndicated. I don't know. Does syndicating still happen? I don't know if they still syndicate anymore. Ever since Next Generation, I don't know about syndicated shows anymore. I mean, not only Next Generation, but I mean the past Star Trek shows. Also, I wanted to point out, I haven't seen the Orville. Is that what it's called? Like I said, I'm still not interested in that, but it seems to be getting pretty decent reviews, surprisingly. So maybe I should check it out. And if I check any of the episodes out, I'll probably do a segment on it here. All right, we have the Inhumans, which I'm going to get to. This is where we're going to do our here. What's coming up? I'm going to get to the Inhumans pilot next episode, the next This Week in Comic Book TV. So not this week, unfortunately. The Inhumans double episode, I believe it's going to be the full 2-hour movie that was shown in theaters, but with more parts. We're going to be doing that next episode. I believe The Gifted is on Monday, so that is. I didn't see the 6-minute preview. I don't want. I just want to see it when it comes on. I don't want to, you know, keep getting these teases and stuff, and then it kind of colors your impression of the show before you see it. So The Gifted next week we're gonna do. I'm not sure when MacGyver comes back. Like I said, it's not a comic book show, but it's in the genre enough that we're gonna look at that as well when the episodes come out. And then the week after that, I believe, is when we finally have the CW shows back. All right, as it stands right now, it is 11:30-ish, September 30th, and our first Halloween Johnny's Classic Horror Reviews for this second season momentarily, yes. So keep your eye open for that. I'm not going to spoil which Halloween movie I reviewed and prepared. I've got another one that I just watched actually 2 nights ago now. I'm so far behind. I had to write a review for that'll be up next week. So keep your eyes open on my channel and you will catch momentarily it dropping, as the kids say, the first episode of Johnny's Horror Classics review for this second season. All right, so yeah, we're going to be doing that all through October. We're going to be doing classic horror reviews. If you have any suggestions of one you want me to cover, feel free to put it in the comments below, and I'll see if I can get to it. I've got most of the classics, so I'll probably try to draw from that pool. I try to go through the fringe a little bit, ones that are not, instantly thought of, because there's plenty of time to do the main big classics. So I try to do some fringe ones, including the first one I put out here is sort of a fringe one, a little bit, not too obscure. Also, we want to remind you to check out my website, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Comics. You can find them in the link in the description below. You can also check me out on Twitter, and the Twitter link is in the description below, which, yeah, they're going to add more characters. I'm all for it. Complaining because they want to stick to 140. You can't really say anything with 140 characters because that's when we start having, like, it makes the English language suffer because you got to cut out so many words and then it starts becoming a babbling mess. But yeah, I'm all for it. I don't know if they're going to do it widespread, but I think they should. Alrighty then, so once again, this is your host, Johnnie Torch, reminding you, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.